Hey, greatness. It's me, Sister Matthias, founder of Nisa Nova. And I want to talk to the women who lead. I want to talk to us for just a moment. I know we're basically at the beginning of 2026 still. And I want to talk to us because I want to talk to those of us who have shown up for everyone else, who have achieved, who have overcome, you've built, you served, and still, there feels like something is calling you deeper. And if you're anything like me, this season doesn't feel like a simple reset or a fresh start. It feels like a threshold, like you're standing at the edge of something sacred, deep, shifting. And listen, I know you've already accomplished a lot, yet somehow this season doesn't feel like it's about proving anything. It's about aligning, surrendering, and ultimately another level of the rise. And what I feel in my spirit, and as I talk to so many of my sisters and the leaders I'm connected with, and those that are clients who we're having these bolder conversations, is that this season is feeling like it's just not just for you. It feels but as if you are carrying, and all the things you do carry, right? Your wisdom, your story, your power, your own becoming. All of that was never meant to stay with you. It's a payload. And I know for sure that there's someone waiting for it. So let's take a look at this. I want to walk through, I called this live the Perch and the Payload. And I want to walk through the 7 P's for women who lead. And this isn't just theory, this is lived, and I dare call it legacy work. Is examining, reviewing, living it out, and then talking with my sisters, my mentors. And here's what I see for those of us who lead, meaning there's a community that's called to you as much as you're called to community. And one of the things that awaken us to some level of elevated leadership in whatever category, area, calling that you have is often pain. We begin the awareness with the breaking. And this pain is, let's call it a sacred wound. It's the defining fire. And it's not meant to destroy you, it's meant to design you. Let me say that again. This pain is a sacred wounding that isn't meant to destroy you. It is meant to design you. This is where it gets real. This is where the masks fall off, where something inside you says, this can't be for nothing. And what causes us to move through that pain is there comes a moment of stillness. It's the pause. And then when that pause comes, sometimes it feels like this silence is everything. The silence, the call is silence, the clarity, the momentum that you felt like you were under before that breaking moment. That pause, it feels like your life is silenced at times. You may feel stuck, frustrated, depressed, shamed. When you feel that, the truth is you are being stilled. You with me? The sacred stillness before you surge. It's a cocoon. It's a catalyst. It's a womb. That period of waiting. That pause. You're like, Mathina, how long do I have to sit in this pause? That pause can be for years. It doesn't mean you have no movement. If you think about a cocoon, if you think about a catalyst, right? the chrysalis, excuse me, not just the catalyst, but the chrysalis. If you think about what's happening, there's movement, there's work, there's internal things happening there before the emergence, before the butterfly surges out of its shell. So other people may look at it as done, as the end, as you're over. You may be looking at it that way. But what I want to remind you, as a woman of power and influence, it is not over. You're being prepared for your next season. So while it may feel uncomfortable, understand that pause, that stillness is truly sacred. Because what comes after that, if you think about a butterfly even coming out of that chrysalis, is the posture you then begin to take from your surrender. Now, this posture, this P, is about the spirit and your stance. It's about whether or not you've armored up or you've opened up. And will you lead now from scarcity or from surrender? And I need you to pick up. One is more powerful than the other. From surrender is power. From scarcity is still fear and lack. Scarcity is from ego. I used to be, I did, you don't understand, all of that. Surrender is from essence. It's divine. It's the way you've positioned yourself to view your pain. And that is what often leads us to accessing purpose. Let me give it to you another way, okay? For example, I want you to think about a superhero. My favorite one to use is Spider-Man, because Spider-Man is easy, even though I'm really a Marvel fan. But anyway, let's not digress. So if you think about Spider-Man, Spider-Man's pain moment, right? His awareness moment. That didn't come when he was bitten by the spider. That may have started a catalyst of things to roll down, but that wasn't the moment. Actually, think about, if you're familiar with the storyline, the pain, the awareness moment of pain is when he loses his uncle. And then he comes to a point where he's now trying to find the thief, and he's looking for this sense of revenge. And when he finds the thief, he realizes he could have stopped this thief long before he ever got to his uncle to harm his uncle. But instead, he didn't have the right posture about what to do with his power. And so now he's paused at a moment of decision. We're going to get to that perch in a minute. But at a moment of decision where he has to decide how he's going to now use the gift that he has. Let me say it a different way. He had to pause, even though he had pain coursing, so that he can posture himself to figure out if he's going to become something more with the power he's been given. And when he decides to leave the thief for the police, that's when he becomes your friendly neighborhood superhero. That is his true moment of origin. When his power becomes more than this thing, a gift that he has, he's now purposed his pain. So here is where all of that pain starts to make sense. Here is where your wisdom comes out of the wounding. The pain, the pause, the posture, it leads you to purpose. And this is not a title, it's not a task, it's a calling forward, it's a forging, and it comes out of the fire of what you've been through. Now, so I was going to get to the perch in a moment. The perch, now that he's accessed and made a decision to step and use his power for purpose, and he's become the friendly neighborhood superhero, you have that same experience because now you're perched. I love using the example of Spider-Man because when you think about Spider-Man, you sometimes see him perched on top of a building looking down. You have a version of that when you use your own wounding and turn it into wisdom. When you take your pain and you move it into purpose. As women who lead, we often step into spaces of leadership in areas where we were once wounded. And so that perch then is the rise. Because now you're not just seeing, you rise to see. From your perch, you begin to notice what others can't. You've gained vision, strategy, wisdom. So don't let it get twisted. Your perch isn't a finish line. You're still carrying something, but the perch allows you to see things and pathways and opportunity to now deliver what you're carrying, because all of that wisdom is now what we'll refer to as the payload. I told you I was going to give y'all P's, okay? So now that wisdom is what we're going to refer to as the payload. The message, the truth that you've now been entrusted with is not just yours. The reason you were on that perch is so you can see things that others may not be able to see. And now that thing that you've been carrying through the storm is meant not to be buried, but to be delivered. And now that you see that clearly, you also see who it's for, because from the perch you could see, and now you know what the payload is for. The payload is the true value, is the thing that you carry forward. And now it comes, what do? I see the pathway. I've experienced the pain. I've gotten myself through that particular piece of this. Now what? Now it's the pour. But then I've been pouring, not from this wisdom. Because who you are now, who you are today, who you are in this dispensation of time, this authenticity that you're living in, you've never been here before. You've never stood in 2026 like this before. So now there's a different level of pour. That doesn't mean that you pour without rest, without rejuvenation. That's not what we're talking about. That's a different live. We can come back. In this instance, this is where you move from being the story to becoming the source. This is you becoming a pathway, blazing trails for others. This is you becoming a portal to the access point through which others experience transformation. And ultimately, you, the community that you build, those you're meant to lead, you become provision, offering wisdom, strategy, soul nourishment to those who need what only you can give. That's divine assignment. And your submission, your surrender to that, in whatever area you have been assigned, that's what we're talking about the pour. So let me go through these one more time, right? Just a quick summary. When we talk about the 7 P's for women who lead, we're talking about the pain, the breaking. We're talking about the pause, the stillness, the posture, which is the surrender, the purpose, which is the becoming, and the perch, which is where you rise so that you can see, and the payload, that's the wisdom that you're carrying that needs to be delivered, and the pouring, which is the release. Curating the spaces that you're called to do, you're called to curate so that others can live, thrive, see, believe, and access their own dimension, because then they step into their version of leadership that's been called for them. You with me so far? All right, that was a lot, right? And I was giving it. So drop it in the comments. Let me know. Send me a DM how this lands with you, how it resonates. And if you are resonating with this conversation in a way that you're like, I get it, Mathina, right? Because you're not just meant to rise. You're also meant to do the release. You're just not here to grow. You're here to live, to glow, and do it without guilt. Do your internal work so your internal integrity is intact, so your service to the world comes from a place where you're able to replenish and serve in a way that doesn't deplete. Okay? All right. So Now that we've gotten to some of that, here's what I want to say. If this message is something that does resonate with you and you want more of this conversation and you want to talk about some of the strategy, how to elevate your spaces so that transformation is occurring for those that you have been assigned to, then I want you to join us on January 22nd, for a live experience that I'm hosting. It's called From Gathering to Gateway, where we're going to explore how to create those transformational spaces, how to activate community culture in a way that you activate your purpose and the impact for those who are assigned to you. All right? So you've carried enough. Now it's time to pour it out and do it in a space where you could also be replenished. So you're never pouring from depletion. All right, take care of yourself. I love you to pieces and back whole again. I can't wait to read your comments, hear your feedback, hear how this resonated with you, and create an opportunity for us to access true sisterhood in a space where we not only do our internal work, but we do it in a way that the assignment we have on our life is one that we do not fail. We get to definitely pass.